While I was plant shopping about a week ago, I found this Sedum Burrito, and I thought it'd be fun to see how many babies I can get from it. Now, the first thing that I'm gonna do is pull these little babies off. It had quite a few leaves on top of the soil when I got it, but there were also a ton of leaves that were just sitting on the shelf next to it, not connected to anything, which is really common for this plant. It just drops leaves like crazy with the slightest bump. So what I'm gonna do first is just dump out as many of these leaves as I can and put them on my little propagation pot over here. Okay, so not a ton, but I don't know, quite a few. And you can see some of them actually already have a little baby on it. They are so cute. This is one of my favorite plants to propagate. Now, with the rest of this, I want to chop it up, and I also want to remove some leaves, and then I want to repot the original. So I'm going to set this aside for just a minute, and I'm going to start by just chopping it up. This is hanging off the edge. That's going to be tricky to pot. So we'll just cut it up there and have some nice trailing plant. Now that this is more manageable, I'm gonna remove it from the original pot and add it to a different pot. As always, I like having a container to unpot succulents into. That way, anything that drops, I can really easily recover it, and I don't have to clean up a giant mess if there's a big pile of soil like there currently is. Okay, now this is fun. This, I'm almost positive, was a leaf propagation that has grown on its own. So I'm gonna set this one aside, and I'll probably put it in a different pot. And then we're just gonna keep removing the soil. Okay, that one wanted to come out on its own. So there we've got a nice stem. And this is my goal with this, is just to gently remove everything, see what wants to go where, and see what we've got hiding inside the soil here. You do want to be really careful when you're repotting Sedum Burrito because it falls apart really easily, and you can very easily knock leaves off, which, like I said, they propagate really easily from leaves, so that's always a plus, but just be careful. You might end up losing a lot more leaves than you want. So this seems to all be one plant through here, but it is very full. Ah! See, I just did that. I just bumped some leaves off. And I want to get as much of that original soil off as possible so that it doesn't trap water once I plant this into the gritty mix. The good news is the roots on this look really healthy, so it should transplant quite nicely. All right, that is looking pretty good. There are so many like itty bitty leaves down here, and every time I kind of touch it, I feel like I'm breaking something off. Now, this is interesting. To pot this as is, oh my goodness, there's more coming off. Okay, so to pot this as is, it's gonna kind of lean over to the side, which is totally fine. This plant is a trailing plant, and it's just kind of a funky shape right now. But it's all in such good condition that I'm just gonna repot it exactly how it is, like this, and then I'll remove some leaves from our other segments to propagate. As I am moving these from place to place, I just keep losing more leaves, but not really losing them because we'll add them to our tray to propagate. Okay, have my pot. Gonna fill it up part of the way and then hold this in place and just fill in until it's completely full of soil around the stem. And I like holding it in place with some wiggle room. That way I can put soil all around it, but I know that my plant is gonna end up above the rim of the pot. I don't know if that itty bitty leaf will propagate, but may as well try. Okay, so now I have that in. So this will be our original parent plant. And I actually already have this added into the Succulent Tracker app. So I'm going to take a picture of it as it is now. So there it is the day that I bought it. I'm going to go ahead and add a new picture of it right now. And then I'm also going to put in that I have both pruned it and repotted it. So pruning and repotting. Okay, and I haven't actually watered this since I bought it. I like to wait a day after repotting it before I water, so this will get watered tomorrow. Now that this cute little guy is all planted up, let's work with these leftover cuttings and some leaves. So this is just a really funky shape, and it's not gonna work very well to plant it as is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna knock off leaves in this little section right here. It is a really satisfying feeling to pull those off. And we'll just lay them out here, and then I'm gonna chop this. All right, now I have a much more usable cutting. But this part is still really funky. So I wanna go for leaf propagations here. I have plenty of like full plants to propagate. So I'm just gonna pull all the leaves off. I thought about putting these in like a really cool mandala kind of design, but that feels like too much work at the moment. Maybe we'll come back, or I'll have my kids do it later. Oh, this is gonna be really nice and full. And you know what? I'm gonna just pull all of these off too. So I will keep this section of stem, but all the rest is coming off. And we'll just chop this right here. Okay, so I have 3 really nice cuttings that we will pot up in some gritty mix. And then I have this little guy that has some funkiness to it, but we'll pot it as well. And then this is so cute. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the original leaf right there, and that it's just been growing. Now with this tray, I will keep the top of the soil wet. I'll probably water it every 2 to 3 days and just soak it so that it's wet. But because it has that gritty mix underneath, and because coconut coir is in and of itself pretty well draining, it'll work to keep it not sopping wet, but just damp enough that these should grow pretty quickly. Now I have a little itty bitty pot that I bought from an artist a few years ago, and that's what I'm gonna put this individual little leaf propagation in. One of the things that I find helps really well to keep leaf babies growing is to make sure the roots are covered. Those roots dry out super quickly, so if you can have them covered in a nice organic mix, or in this case, the coconut coir, that tends to help everything stay hydrated and eventually grow much bigger and not have to rely on being watered as frequently. I'm gonna put the cuttings in with the stem that still had some roots on it, and just let them all grow together for a little while, and eventually I can repot them into a bigger pot on their own. So there's that one all potted up. Sedum Burrito really is a great plant if you want to grow a bunch more succulents from one that you already own. So I highly recommend looking for one like this that had a bunch of stems coming off of it. That way you can chop them up, you can remove a bunch of leaves, and still keep your original plant. I'll keep you posted on the progress of this one over time and show you what these leaf babies look like in a few weeks.